the meeting this evening. We'll begin here in a couple of minutes. How does the audio sound? Can everyone hear us in the background?
Yep.
All right, good.
Okay. So you guys relocating, that was a big deal, the county had to, all the counties and municipalities had to approve it. The tracking.
Yeah, so this group's Source Solutions, they did all the
I'm going
recruiting.
south.
Yeah, they came to present it to the
Oh, okay,
county board.
okay, yep.
And I was amazed.
All right, so we'll call this meeting to order at 7 o'clock. Call, pledge allegiance, please.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, ready?
Is absent Goss here, Hubble?
Here.
Lawson?
Here.
Platt?
Here. Any changes to the agenda tonight? Any conflict of interest tonight? Hearing none, we'll move right into public comment. So this part of the agenda is our public comment. I'd like to remind everyone that we have a 5-minute limitation on our public comment. At about 4 minutes, 45 seconds, please notice that I'm going to start grabbing my wrist. That means you've got about 15 to 20 seconds, maybe 30 to wind things up, okay? So hopefully that will allow everyone to make their comments, okay? So starting off tonight, would anyone like to make a public comment?
Janet Becky, 6987 Cook Road, Williamsburg. So I just have a couple questions about the handyman position thing. So one of my things is, it wasn't on there anything about it, are they going to be using their own vehicle? Are the township going to give them a vehicle to use? What about the liability, a special type of insurance, make sure they're covered in case there's an incident? And the liability that falls back in the township if they are working for the township, say something happens to them, what is the possibilities of a long-term payout for an injury that happens to them? And I just think it should be contracted, not a hired person. Is that?
Thank you. Anyone else this evening?
Good evening. Ron Backey, 6987 Cook Road, Deputy Supervisor. Everybody here pretty much knows how I feel about the event barn ordinance. I think anytime you commingle residential, agricultural, and commercial, I think it's a recipe for disaster. About 3 weeks ago, I was reading in the paper, and I saw a letter to the editor, and it's under correspondence number 4, and I'd like to read it. Dear editor, last summer my neighbors and I packed the Whitewater Township Hall to speak out against a planned event barn in our community. Aside from the concerns that any resident would have about noise and light pollution and increased traffic and drunk driving, we would be deeply concerned that Event Barn would be selling the rural experience at the cost of our residents' right to enjoy the peace, quiet, natural beauty, and safety of this place that our families call home. This spring, an event barn survey was sent out to all Whitewater residents. The results of a survey have the power to influence decisions. Regardless of whether the results are statistically viable, I am urging all Whitewater residents to complete and return this survey and let our township board know that we will only permit commercial businesses such as event barns to be operated on commercially zoned property. Sadly, the topic of event barns has become about selfish, private interest who seek to get special use of agricultural land to run a commercial business, with no regard to how that affects residents and families. I need your help in protecting our community. D. Prabhakar. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else tonight for first public comment?
Hi, Bobby, 8371 Winning Lane, Williamsburg, Michigan. I hope you guys prepped for your meeting better than I prepped tonight, because the last few I've watched, I'm having a few issues. Please, if you're gonna vote and not do your homework, then vote present. Because you're supposed to be voting for us, the people. And when it's 4-1, and the chair says, oops, you shouldn't be voting this way, you better be redoing your homework mighty quick. Shame on you. Because you're going from willy-nilly to nincompoop real quick.
Thank you. Anyone else tonight? I have one. Ron Pop, 6237 Elkview Drive. I have some comments on the May 14th meeting with respect to approval of building and ground worker job description. My objection to the development of job description, interview, and hiring process being conducted by one office is contrary to established township policy and procedure. 2, leads to lopsided work duties. Much as what the board conversation was on 514 was how this position will be able to help park and rec projects, providing relief to the group of volunteers that now take on that task. I'm fine with that. However, we have no infrastructure, no tools, no vehicle, no equipment for this person to use. According to board conversation, this person will not even be able to move furniture or file cabinets as needed during the planned repainting of the township hall because we have no cart. Maybe we should have stated must have own tools and reliable transportation in the job description. As for trail cleanup, we already have contractors and/or good specifications that could be board approved to take care of this important topic. Below is a reprint of the supervisor's recommendation for general lawn care and maintenance from 2017. As I recall, Clerk Goss was against the proposal. The cost may have triggered sealed bids, and she would not be able to direct the business to her friend Ben Quast of Lawn and Order, who is also the son of Park Ranger Peggy Quast. I believe the board should adopt a similar lawn maintenance specification as printed below and open the bid packet to our local vendors, keeping our taxpayers recirculating in our township. Taxpayer dollars, excuse me. As for the single office, it's too much work. Many of these duties set forth in the job description are coordination of services, some with project management, and ones were shared between the supervisor's office and the clerk's office. I do not agree with removing those responsibilities from those two offices. The clerk's office has taken on, at her own will, many of these ancillary tasks. With cemetery, park, recreation director, camping park, camp park website, township website, it's clear why the clerk's office is overwhelmed. It's important to note shared duties is how this administration worked
up until 2016, when the clerk's office started its obstruction campaign towards the supervisor's office. These unfavorable tactics should cease in favor of a more collaborative work environment. However, for this to happen, the clerk has to be willing to relinquish some self-control. The township is not in a financial position to maintain a job post that produces nothing and may generate additional unemployment responsibilities. To further free up clerk time, I recommend the Park and Recreation Administrator post be contracted out and not be part of the clerk's office duties. This position is up annually for review and demands an extraordinary amount of time, which results in the clerk's inability to properly maintain website approved minutes. Please look at our website. Draft minutes go back all the way to 1/9 of 2018. And a failure to generate repeal ordinance in under a year is excessive, to say the least. This post could easily be handled by one of 2 senior park rangers. Moving on to typical duties, number 7 of the job description. Once the contractor has been selected by the township clerk and/or board, this is a complete failure too. The office of the supervisor and the clerk share the purchase order responsibility in accordance to Whitewater Township Policy Section 4.8 for project values between $1,000 and $5,000. So the supervisor should be added to this line item. A collaborative work effort between the supervisor and the clerk's office will serve the taxpayer better. A copy of Section 4.8 is also provided below. Dragging the baseball fields. This is not a township function. It might be a county function. They have a recreation millage. So I submit to the Park and Recs administrator that if she wants to have perpetual care for a baseball diamond while our roads are eroding away, she get a millage. Same with lowering flags. This has never been done at the township at all facilities. Maybe here at the Township Hall, but not at all cemeteries. So I'd like to know who requires that. Thank you.
Anyone else for public comment this evening? Okay, reports and presentation. Gordy, good evening.
Good evening. A couple of things. I just want to make sure, I'm sure I mentioned this before after I was sort of was elected and attended the first meeting. I represent Acme, all of Whitewater on behalf of the East Bay. Because there's been some discussion on the board that we as commissioners should represent all of the county. Certainly, what we do at the county level does affect everybody, but my voting, what I do, is based upon the residents of Acme, East Bay, and Whitewater. So I just want you to be assured that I look at your interests, because county commissioners that represent the city, many of them have different interests and they kind of go in a different direction. So if anybody at any time senses anything in the community that's going on that is impacted by the county, that you feel represents the folks at Whitewater Township, please get a hold of me and let me know what your thoughts are. A lot of things going on at the county right now, but nothing really too exciting. So what I'd like to do is spend a few minutes on, and this isn't a test of any sort, the tax increment financing. And I don't know how familiar you are with that concept, but it is important, and it comes back to the county and to the taxpayers in Whitewater. So let me just take a minute to describe what it is. I gave you a chart in front of you. And what it is, in general, is the concept that an entity like the county or the library or the college or whatever, they'll forego to a DDA tax revenue for a period of time. So if you look at that, if a tax increment financing plan is invoked by a DDA in the city, which has been done, called TIF 97. And are you familiar with? Okay, anyway, a TIF has been created. And what that means is, starting in 1997, the tax base in the TIF district, which is primarily downtown Traverse City, was frozen to everybody. So whatever we received for a property based upon our millage, or the college, or anybody else, in 1997 is what they received for the length of the TIF. So if you look at this, it says at the beginning there, the creation of the TIF. The baseline property values are frozen, so the county is receiving today what we received in 1997. And then it'll terminate at some period of time. Currently, TIF 97 is a 30-year TIF, so it'll expire in 27. In the area above, the tax increment, that gold area, all of that revenue that has been generated for a 30-year period will go to the DDA for improvements in downtown Traverse City. It won't go to the county to support the health department, the police department, the jail, the courts, veterans, whatever. The concept is, and that was approved in 1997 by the board, the county board at that time, the bet is that if you pour all this money into the city for infrastructure improvements, development will happen much faster, be much greater, and at the end of the TIF period, 30-year period, the revenue will be much higher and you'll start collecting that. So it's in essence all forego money received for a 30-year period on the calm that I'll make more than make up for it in the future. So that's all set to expire, and they've built parking decks downtown in a number of very worthwhile projects. But the key on any TIF is there's an end date where the money starts to come back to us, and hopefully it comes back at a higher level and you go ahead. The problem is when the TIF was presented by the DDA to the board in 1997, I wasn't there, it was for a 30-year period, but there's a little caveat, or may be extended at their prerogative. Well, they're now talking about extending it for another 8, 12, 14, 20 years. And the revenue, what we're losing, I've done the math because it's all laid out there. At the end of the TIF period, if as stands, if it expires in 27, we will have forgone $12 million, just the county, let alone Commission on Aging, the college, the library, etc. We'd have given up $12 million of cash in the hopes that there's payback. Present value of that is about $23 million because we're paying it over time. So it's significant. We're looking at this now, what options we have with the city to say, hey, we bought into this program, as did all the other players. Your ability to just arbitrarily, without coming back to your partners who agreed to it and getting our consent, they don't have to by statute. We're looking at different means of trying to convince them of re-looking at that and coming back to the table with us. So what we've talked about doing is going out to the various townships and making sure they're aware of what's going on in this regard. Because even though they're not taking any of your taxes, we're supplying, the county is supplying services directly and indirectly to the various townships. So I think conceptually it's a valued concept of a TIF, but the premise of any TIF is there's an end date where, yes, I forgo, in essence, $23 million, but because of this rapid expansion, et cetera, in the city, at some point in time, it will have been a worthwhile investment. But it only is a good investment if the TIF comes to a conclusion. Now, if they want to come back and create another TIF, which they could do a reset, then come back to the board and say, okay, this is what we want to do, we can improve it, or disapprove it. We can opt in or out. So Anyway, I don't know what your views are on that, but I'm going to be talking to East Bay. I'm meeting with Beth tomorrow, and of course with Acme, just so my townships are aware of what's going on. And again, if there's anything we think we can do to solicit your support, because I think it's important that we talk as one voice to the city on this, to the DDA, and hopefully you're in some agreement with the position the county is trying to take, but just let it come to a conclusion as was agreed upon. And if you want to continue for another building structure, parking structure, and on and on and on, let's come back and talk about it. So, do you have any questions or comments?
Well, I know that the road commission was running into trouble with this particular tip over a year ago. And, you know, they had similar pains,
Yeah.
we'll say, as you reiterated. And it just does not seem like it's a good deal. And so I would certainly support the termination date remaining the same as originally agreed upon. And if not, let's sue them.
And then the
Let's get
lawyers.
their attention.
I think there are other options, and the one thing I'm extremely encouraged upon, you know, as you know, we got a new administrator at Nadelger, and I don't know if you're familiar with him, but I am really impressed with him. I mean, he is a good guy, he's got fire in the belly, and he thinks like a businessman, although he's been in the public sector for his entire life. It's refreshing to talk to somebody that gets it, and as does his deputy. So we're coming up with various strategies, but it certainly would help us if the townships, you know, understood what was going on and agreed with us. So
Are you proposing some type of resolution?
No, this is just kind of the trial balloon to get it out there to see if people have pushback or if they understand or whatever. It's kind of an education, and I've been getting positive from the folks I've talked to date, and then we'll sit down and figure out whether we want to do a resolution or just something so they know, and then take it public if need be. I mean, in my opinion, people outside of the city are getting the short end of the stick if this thing doesn't end when it's supposed to end, because that was the deal. So, if you have any questions or anything, I've got more information or gathering more information as to what our options are. So.
When does it end?
It could be infinite. I mean, it's supposed to be ending in 27. 2027.
2027.
It was a 30-year tip. So we still have time to go, but they'd like to extend it. I've heard 2054. I mean, just, and then they could re-extend it.
Extending it, that's 8 years down the road.
Well, they want to do a project. They want to float a bond for 30 years, and the tip will end, so their cash cow will. And if you look at it, the city has 3 revenue sources now. They've got the city millage, which is very high, thank goodness we don't live there. They have the DDA millage, which collects 2 mills, and now they've got the TIF. So they got 3 big pots of money to work with while we're sitting there, you know, doing various things. And you know, same with all the townships are certainly aren't fat in cash. So, okay, thank you.
Thank you. See Mr. McKellar here this evening. Mobile medical response is in the packet. I do see a famous person in the audience, Mr. Paul Olson. Thanks, underwriters. He is our insurance agent of record here at the township for the last 99 years. Now,
It's only 35.
Now, doesn't he look like he's in good shape for 99 years? Good, good.
I have one.
With all the certificates, is that in?
I'm gonna give you all that.
Okay.
I have that.
Okay.
Actually, I'll give all that to you right now. That's all. I have.
Right.
All right, thank you. My name is Paul Olson from Municipal Underwriters of West Michigan. I've been insuring Whitewater Township not quite 99 years, but 35 years. And I always try to come to visit the board once a year. What I've handed out to you is your summary of coverages. The insuring company is the Michigan Township Participating Plan. We currently insure over 1,350 public entities in Michigan. Township connotates that obviously we do a lot of township business, which we do. I do several cities right now in northern Michigan. I do a couple, three counties. So the product is viable for anyone that has a population of under 25,000. We also have a product of, a similar fashion that can take care of anything over 25,000. So that's just kind of a little history. Here's what we did. I want to go over a few of these things, just a couple things with you. Last year, if you recall, we made the big move, right? We made the rural move and added the fire department and added equipment. And our premium at that time in 2018 was, the package was $25,821. This year it's $25,450. Slight reduction of $371. There wasn't, I don't think, any reason for that reduction except for the fact that I believe when we did this last year, we did a 3-year agreement based on loss ratios, and I just asked my underwriter to try to give you a small break. I'm going to try to do that next year too. I always keep an eye on where my premium should be, so I just want to let you know that. We're really right about at the same spot as last year. Very quickly, we are carrying $3 million of general liability coverage here at Whitewater Township. We've talked about this over the years. Your general liability, we're in a position to defend you if someone would bring litigation against you, or if someone would be injured at a piece of vacant property or at your park, and they decide to sue for bodily injury. And what really triggers that coverage would be someone in a summons complaint, because I've seen thousands of these over the years. They're going to be asking for, more than likely, a monetary damage against you. When that happens, obviously, we hire an attorney to represent you, and we, defend the case up to the limits of $3 million. We also write a no aggregate on that $3 million, which just simply means if you would be litigated in a policy year under the GL policy, and I'm just giving an example, the claim was settled at $3 million, and you were sued 4 months later, you would have an additional $3 million. There's unlimited hits of $3 million throughout the course of the policy year. And also on there we do have the premise medical payments coverage up to $10,000. This is a coverage where if someone claims they've fallen, they've slipped and fell, they've injured their son, injured themselves on playground equipment, we can always go to that med pay up to $10,000. I always talk to you folks about it. Do you want to pay it? We can pay it. It's just an automatic, we'll pay for their immediate medical bills. Many of these cases are different because some involve someone with health insurance, others don't. Maybe we'll take care of a deductible. So those are the type of things that would, the campground could have, something could happen out there, dock, whatever, you have different things that could happen. Professional medical malpractice liability for your trained firefighters, because you do have an EMS group that obviously you contract with that I don't have, we don't have any liability as it relates to that. But you do have firemen that could attend to someone on a first responder basis, and they would be sued for some type of medical attention that they gave them. We need that coverage in there for you. Public officials wrongful act liability coverage of $3 million as well. That is a decision-making process coverage. So you as board members, you render decisions or opinions that can affect your constituents within the community. They may not always like the way you render a decision or opinion. In the majority of these cases that we get involved with would be civil rights violations. People claim that their civil rights have been violated by some type of decision or opinion you have rendered. Obviously, there can be zoning issues, and I believe you folks do your own zoning. I'm pretty sure of that. So we have, some possibilities of taking of property. Our restrictive use sublimit on the zoning, what we cover is if you're sued for a damage, we are going to cover pretty much everything under that sublimit except eminent domain. So someone would have to claim that you basically how do I want to put this, physically taken their property from them without any just compensation. And that, I don't see that too often over the years, so those would be the zoning aspect, the one aspect that would have, I feel, an exclusion in it. But civil rights violations can be discrimination, sexual harassment, and other unwanted conduct, but the biggest one is employees, right? We have employees, we hire, we fire, we do different things, and many times those employees are not happy with their fire, they don't feel they've been given proper representation, and that's where we get into a lot of cases under this particular coverage line. Fleet liability coverage, I'm not going to touch on that too much. Standard no-fault. Next year, I think you're going to see some changes, if everything goes according to plan. In the no-fault plan, the PIP is going to be an option for people, personal injury protection. There's going to be, it's a statutory limit now that will save people on their auto insurance. And also the, which we don't have much here, the MCCA, the Michigan Catastrophic Claims Association, is now charging well over $230 a vehicle for everyone that owns a vehicle in Michigan, and that particular coverage is going to be looked at. So there could be, hopefully, and that's going to be by next year, 2020, July 1st, there's supposed to be some changes. So that will affect you, yes?
Do you think those will be selectable items for us?
Yeah, if the law changes, I think we'll have to institute selectable items, even though we'll only do public entities. I had a meeting next Monday with a couple people from HCC up here, and I'll inquire about that a little more. I've just been kind of reading what they're proposing. Not our company, but what the state's proposing. So I'll let you know. I'm pretty sure that there can be some savings there, I would hope, Fleet property coverage, those are all your vehicles. I have your vehicles on the next page. I'm not going to go through everything. Just please review those. Cheryl, let me know if there's anything that I'm missing. And then we have inland marine as well. We put all the inland marine on last year. Seawolf Rescue with trailer at $18,000. The Kubota RTV at $36,000. Those are scheduled items. And then I have miscellaneous ancillary fire equipment up to $50,000 per occurrence. That would be an example that you go to a fire, you lose a number of pieces of hose. There's a lot of things happen at a fire scene, and each time you have that happen, up to $50,000. We won't go over $25,000 in any one item, but I can tell you that the fire department will have, at this point in time, probably nothing except the Kubota, all right, or a truck, that's over $25,000, when I'm talking about a piece of equipment. I mean, jaws of life could be, but you can still get up to $25,000 on those. And most of my jaws losses have been partial losses, or someone runs something over, it just depends. But that's what we have on that coverage. Property coverage, I have all your buildings listed there, $1,639,469, and that's written on a blanket basis with no co-insurance, which just simply means if we have a loss at this building, and the building is on the policy at the dwelling for $433,000, if it was going to cost $500,000 to replace, we obviously have to, if it burns down, you have to get an architect, we have to get specs. We base it, okay, on the square footage of the building, okay, so that's kind of how we do that. Your loss is going to be based on the square footage, and then you come up with a design, and you wouldn't have to design it this way, you could design it this way, however you would like to do it, but if it came up a little bit over, we would go up to the 1.6, what it means, that's all. So most of my properties, I try to keep it a true replacement cost or very close to that, because it's kind of my job as an agent to make sure that the company I'm representing, they don't have a building on for $200,000 and it comes back the loss of $600,000, okay? Because the only guy that doesn't look good for is me. Crime coverage of $100,000. Public official bonds we've always included for statutory amounts for the public officials. We also have an employee blanket bond of $100,000. The employee blanket bond covers all employees, okay, that handle money, including the treasurer, including the tax collector. So also, looking at that, your treasurer has $125,000 on a bond. What does a bond do? It's really the only criminal accusation that we're going to get involved with, where actually someone could be, the police would come in and make an accusation against an official that they've been basically, the ones I've handled, been absconding with money. Knock on wood, over 35 years I've had 6 of these in the last 15 years, I think, and they've all been in cities. I haven't had one at a township. I know there have been, you know, some township issues, but I have not had one. Business electronic equipment of $100,000 on all of your computers. You could be carrying computers on board in fire vehicles. You could have computers out at your campground. You could have computers at your home. If that's a home office, partially used for a home office, we're going to cover those exposures, you know, wherever the computers are at. Total premium this year is $25,450. And does anyone have any questions? I do have one item, $397.62 was set back for a dividend, okay, this year. And you know, that dividend's gonna grow next year because those were based on premiums that were lower, okay? Because that's based on a 2016 premium. So we're gonna move into where we, you know, I think it was about a 3% dividend. And I think your dividends overall for a 4-year period, or 5-year period, roughly, I don't have it right in front of me, was about $2,600 back to the township. And any other questions?
Excellent job as usual. I would like to get together with Fire Chief. If you had another copy of this, even if it was electronic, we'll forward it to Chief. And then we'll make sure that the fire apparatus is up to his specifications.
Yep, and then some of the new equipment, like, our new extrication equipment and stuff like that.
If you just want anytime, call me too, I'm right here, I'll be happy to come out. We looked last year pretty extensively, so if you added anything to that, just take a look at it, let me know if we need to change anything, I'd be happy to stop out.
Perfect, appreciate
Okay,
it.
you're very welcome. All right, folks, thank you very much, I appreciate your business. Always good to see you, and I do appreciate your business over the years, thank you.
Thanks. Chief, what do you have for us this evening?
Well, kind of a busy month, the month of May. 5 calls in total. We did some collaborative training with Elk Rapids Fire Department. Since Chief Vandenberg left, Williamson has taken over, and he seems to want to work with us a little more, so we spent some time up in at the new Tom Emerson Training Center with them. And I think we're going to be doing some water rescue training with them, get both of our boats out there, because that's normally what's probably going to happen on Elk Lake anyway, and Skagmont Lake. So as we delve into the summer season, we're going to be working with them quite a bit, I think. We did get the new extrication equipment delivered on May 6th, and that is in service on Air 3. In fact, we used it already on June 1st for an extrication at Elk Lake Road and 72. Firefighter Johnson completed the academy. That was in early May. So he is on board. He isn't finished with his probation yet. He still has a couple training sessions to complete before we send him into the into emergency calls. But having said that, I'm not sure if everyone here has heard, but Micaiah Faust has turned in his resignation letter effective immediately. So that was kind of a huge blow to the fire department. You know, younger guy who's always showing up to calls and well trained, and he has chosen that to work for a different company, which is going to take him out of town most of the time. So he's not going to be able to participate in training and many of the meetings, and particularly go on calls. So that was kind of sad for us to hear. So as Ron Pop said, 2 steps forward and 1 step back. So we're slowly, I think, gaining a little bit, but it's all good. You know, we've been here for a long time, and we'll continue to survive. The biggest thing, and that's an issue within the county and probably the entire state and maybe the nation, that hiring firefighters and training firefighters is kind of an issue. So we're working on that at the county chief's level to see if we can try to get some of these younger folks coming out of high school and maybe coming out of college to try to recruit them and help pay for their training and get them into a position where they could help us out, which would be great. On more current events, the door at the fire station is still not repaired, so I'm hoping to hear from Overhead Door tomorrow. If not, I'm gonna probably shop around for a new door company, somebody who could cater to us a little more, or at least show some effort into the public safety sector. So, I mean, we've had our air truck parked out back since Friday, actually, because we moved some vehicles around. I wanted the ambulance to be inside, you know, they have medications, it has to be climate controlled. So the ambulance is okay, they're responding as normal, it's just we have one bay that is not usable. Now that I spent the past year going through all of our personal protective equipment, our gear, and some of the bigger items like the vehicles, I've started working on some of the small equipment. We have 2 4-gas monitors that are required to be calibrated every year. So I've sent those out to be calibrated, and one of them needed some repair. But both of those are up and running. Some of our other small equipment, like our small engines, I'm going through all of those right now. I found that our Kubota has not been serviced since 2012, and I'm not sure how that has slipped by the wayside, but I do have that scheduled with Ginup Sales to take it over there, and they're going to completely go through it. And it's still functioning properly and it's usable, but I would like to see that serviced on a regular basis so it lasts a little bit longer than if we don't maintain it. I've also been working with Cheryl and our treasurer to sign up for an auction website to try to get rid of some of our older equipment that's just laying around the station. Maybe somebody else can use it and make some room for some other stuff that hopefully we have coming in. Slowly and surely, we have some self-inspection forms trickling in. It's kind of been a bear working with our local businesses trying to get those forms filled out. And if you remember, my main goal with these self-inspection forms is to complete a pre-incident survey for all of our businesses. And in doing that, I've been checking key safes, and as we know, the key safes haven't been maintained in quite a while, so I'm working with the local businesses to get their keys updated so we don't have to smash any doors in. So it's going well, it's just a little bit slow and tedious. And the last thing is, today, Machine Engineering was out at the station. They did their drone flyover, so they have their mapping and elevation and things like that. He's going to put that together. So the engineering aspect of the project over at the fire station is well underway, as he promised. And that's it.
So I received some comment on the proposed driveway, and they felt that, you know, the driveway really wasn't in that bad a shape, that the ice was the issue. Maybe we should be looking at gutters and insulation and ventilation as part of the solution. So, for what it's worth.
Okay.
Anything for Chief? Thank you. Board.
Well, sad to say, I was out of town and not able to attend, so I do not have a report for you.
Shall we just wait in silence about 4 or 5 minutes to?
That's fine. It's gonna take a nap.
I'm thinking we're gonna move on, if that's all right.
Fine, it works for me.
All right. Well, we're glad to have you back here.
Thank you.
Park and Rec, Cheryl?
The June meeting was scheduled for last night, only 2 members were available, so the meeting could not be held.
Well, hopefully we'll be an alternate here quite shortly. Okay. consent calendar. I would like to remove the 5:14 minutes, the 5:29 minutes, and bills for approval. We can set that as, I'm not sure how the board wants to do that, if we want to discuss it right now, or if we want to make a different new business item. How would the board prefer to move forward?
I guess we discuss it right now.
All right. And this will also be the clerk's park and recreation administrator report as well. Page 5 of the packet. We're awaiting legal documents from the township attorney for Miami Beach. And I just wanted to make sure that everybody read Lindsay's recommendations on GO 32, which is the private road ordinance. Please recall that she says she would like to know whether or not the board has received an opinion from the attorney of whether or not we should actually get rid of 32. And I'm saying that we should have the same opinion on the Miami Beach sewer. I requested one back in March, and the clerk short-circuited that with board approval. But I am once again recommending that we not allow the clerk and treasurer to snow us on what is good and good not good for the township when it comes to the sale of property. The unforeseen consequences are, I think, important for us to learn about. Again, on the clerk's report, Whitewater Township Park playground inspections. This playground equipment, is that the stuff we just recently installed?
Which one are you referring to?
Well,
There's 3 playgrounds here.
yeah, and we installed some at High Prairie, and we installed some at Whitewater Township Park. Did we not?
Well, there's 3 reports for playground equipment.
Okay. All 3 of them failed. So
Well,
I'm asking, it's a simple yes or no question.
I don't think so.
You don't think so what?
I haven't heard the question yet. What's the question? Which playground equipment and what's the question on that playground equipment?
In Whitewater Township Park, you stated in your report, playground inspections were done May 15th, and the report received May 25th. None of the structures at the beach sign met CPSC playground safety guidelines. We are advised to close them. Then, inspection at the campground playground. Equipment revealed that clearance distances from the other equipment are not met, and the sand lacks ADA standards. The third one is at High Prairie Park. Again, the playground inspection was done and failed. So, of those 3 inspections, which ones did we just recently install? The campground playground equipment and the High Prairie Park?
The beach playground equipment was installed, who knows, 40, 50 years ago, something like that. All of that equipment is illegal. Does not meet Consumer Product Safety Commission and whatever that other organization is. All of that equipment has been removed or disabled, as recommended by the report. So we are not allowing anyone to play on that. The campground playground equipment was the used playground equipment that we bought from East Bay Township, which was refurbished. And basically what they're saying is that the pieces are too close together. We're supposed to have more clearance around each, that's what the use zone is the clearance around each piece of equipment. So, we've got to, make some changes there. Also, at the park, at the campground playground equipment, we haven't put landing zone material in there yet. And, so that's a reference to that. And also, playgrounds are supposed to be ADA accessible these days. So we're going to have to do something about ADA accessibility. And those are the same comments they made about the Highbury Park playground equipment. Things are too close together, and because things were too close together over there before the new equipment was put in, and now Parks and Rec tell me that they followed the guidelines. They installed, the Parks and Rec committee installed the Highbury Park equipment and the campground equipment, and they say that they followed the use zone requirements for those. This inspector says that those are not adequate. So we need to get the recommendations from the inspector to find out what exactly we have to do. It's all fixable, it's all correctable. We just need to find out what we need to do. So it's a good thing we had the inspections. No one has inspected playground equipment in this township in 50 years. So it was time it was done. Standards have changed, and we have to keep up with those standards, even if it's old equipment.
But this is the new equipment, and it was just recently installed. I think completion date was just before May 10th. So I guess I would like to have a copy of the rules in which they follow. If we have a road inspector, I'm not afraid to challenge it. Not at all. So if you can give me a copy of what they follow.
I'll have to ask them for that. I don't have it.
Well, you're the administrator, you should have
Well,
it.
but I didn't ask them for that before they did it. I mean, they did
Why
a
not?
high
I
price.
mean, that would be a function of
Okay,
management.
well, we can get it, it's not an issue.
Well, it is. It's a waste of their time, a waste of taxpayer money.
Well, as you will recall, a lot of that was all donated labor. We didn't pay any, we have not paid anyone any labor except to prep a surface out of the campground. All of the labor to install playground equipment has been by volunteers.
Which again is a terrible thing to waste as a volunteer's time.
Sure. Absolutely.
Excuse me. On page 6, excuse me, you indicate that lots of field prep needs to be done or has been done by the Elk Rapids youth baseball parents. We should thank them very much. You also indicated that you called County Facility Manager Joe Berry regarding baseball field maintenance, and that you'll be recommending for next year's fiscal year budget some things that we need to purchase to ensure we have equipment to keep the ball fields playable throughout the spring, summer, and fall. If I remember a comment from the 514 meeting, Della didn't think that this should be the function of the township, and I totally agree. If you are proposing that we provide perpetual maintenance, then you should go find your own money. You should find your own millage, not general township money. I can't imagine the public pushback that is going to ensue by keeping the baseball diamond weed-free while our roads are crumbling around us. It just seems irresponsible.
It's a township township park, and it's our duty to maintain the parks and to upgrade them, and that's one of the reasons for the Parks and Rec Committee to recommend upgrades, and of course, we're going to maintain what we have. So it is a function of the township.
I didn't say it wasn't a function of the township. I didn't say that at all. From what I hear, the folks are weary of the amount of time and money and effort that's going into ball diamonds that our taxpayers just don't use.
Well, I beg to differ. You need to drive by the fields Monday through Thursday night because we've got all kinds of teams playing over there.
I said
And,
our taxpayers.
No, these are kids that go to Mill Creek, Lakeland.
I said our taxpayers. We all know that that's a school of choice.
Oh, well, it doesn't matter.
Oh, it
They go
does.
to the school and they're on these teams, they play here, and we've got some Knowlton Township kids that are coming here and playing, and, you know, their fields are underwater right now, so, we've had a parent ask if they could use the field a couple different times, and why should it be sitting idle when someone can be using it, and kids can be, honing their skills for a sport that they want to participate in.
You should think of your own village. And as far as the osprey nest, I would hate to pull that thing down and then not actually understand the nesting habits of that bird. So I recommend that additional research on this bird's nesting habits gets done before we remove that nest. And I'd be happy to do
The
that.
nest is deteriorating right now, and it's started to already fall down by itself, so the bird is not in. Hasn't been using it in probably close to a year now.
Mhm. So I would be more than happy to provide that additional research.
Sure.
Okay.
The goal is also to start using the lights again, and that nest is on one of the bank of lights that gets very hot when it's on, and that's why we haven't really been encouraging anyone to use those lights, and in deference to the bird, and but we are starting to get requests for that. So if the bird is not here, has abandoned this nest, there's no reason not to take it down.
Well, the nest should be there because we actually, you paid a contractor to install a pole with a platform for the removal of the nest from that light pole.
Well, other board members can tell you what happened with that. Bob Brown was paid some money to put the pole in. He put the pole in. He said he was going to come back for no additional charge and move the nest. I've called him 3 times in the last 2 years. He said he was going to do it, never has shown up. So I can't control what Bob Brown does.
But you paid the bill?
Well, the bill was to put up the pole, not to move the nest. He was going to move the nest for no additional cost.
That's the importance of a well-written agreement, right there.
Well, I think you approved it, so.
I don't know that. You would have to prove that.
Well, you have to prove you didn't. You can go back in the minutes and see what was done, but it doesn't matter. If the bird isn't using the nest, it needs to come down. We don't know, another one could get built, but
minutes of May 14th, maybe on page 25, electronic page 25. The deputy supervisor needs to be added to
to the roll call of board members. He was here. I have it on tape.
It's indicated he was here.
No, it isn't.
I believe it's under others present, isn't it?
Please look. It's not there.
What page? Sure, I can add that. I'll add it under others present.
Really, you should add it under board members. Well, you
No,
know,
it's not.
actually, I'm not so sure about that, because really, the other deputies, like the deputy clerk and the deputy treasurer, they all have signatory capacity. And you signed a resolution at the direction of the clerk when the deputy was in-house.
Yes, I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, I have it on tape. That's okay.
That's fine.
Yep. So the fact that, you know, you failed to recognize the presence of the deputy supervisor is again another obstruction tactic that really needs to stop.
When we have a board member here that can sign, we have board members sign.
No, because then why would you have your deputy sign payroll, for example?
Because she does payroll.
So my deputy signs resolutions.
Okay, well, we can have him sign a resolution. Sure.
Great,
If you're not here,
wonderful.
not a big deal.
Under bills payable, walking sticks, what are we gonna use these for? Wooden-
Paper's fine.
Yeah, it's an item for sale.
Yes, it is.
And who is Matthew Markinek?
Marciniak,
Marciniak?
he's our wood guy.
Does he cut wood at the park and split it, or does he bring it in, cut and split?
Last year he brought cut and split wood. This year he'll probably be doing some of that as well, but he is also helping to clean up some of the fire load in the park, out in the woods in the park, and use it for burnable wood.
And do we have an agreement with him?
Verbal agreement.
Verbal agreement. So we have someone performing dangerous tasks, I assume using a chainsaw, all under a verbal agreement. So we have a liability issue here?
Well, he has to have his own insurance, so
And do we have a copy of that insurance?
I don't.
Why not?
Well, I can get it.
I think that would be a responsibility, don't you? I think some oversight is needed here. So we're actually paying somebody without an agreement and without liability insurance. Proof of
On
liability
an
insurance.
as-needed basis.
Doesn't matter.
Sure, okay.
He could cut his femoral artery. First 5 minutes he's on the property. Whose equipment does he use?
His own.
Under Township Hall and Grounds. I'm looking for our new Picasso, an artistic rendering of the chain of, I assume, lakes. We brought 3 of them from the Starving Artist promotion.
No, we're going to be added to a map that other businesses are on. And It's something that Tom Branich approached us about, and we thought it was a good idea. So we're gonna be getting some of these maps, we're gonna be selling them at the township park. There'll be some here.
Tom, your neighbor?
Tom Branich isn't my neighbor.
No?
I don't know where Tom Branich lives. Tom Branich used to write for the Elk Rapids News.
So we have some at the township hall, and then we have some at the park. So I assume we're gonna attempt to sell those then.
Yes.
All right. On page 60 of invoices for approval, why are there two different park accounts splitting up the lawn mowing maintenance? One for $700 and one for $800.
What page?
60. They're both park.
Well, I'm trying to figure out, okay, are you talking about lawn and order 700?
Yep. And then that would be account 208-756-809.
So that was mowing at the park.
Yep.
Whitewater Township Park.
And then 756-930. Under facilities, maintenance, and repair. Wouldn't 7 and 800 have?
I'm not seeing the second one that you're talking about. Is it on that same page?
Same page, last one.
Oh,
Yeah, I gave you the account number. You should be able
well,
to
I
search
know,
on
but,
that.
okay, I'm looking, sure.
Mhm.
That, let's see.
That should have required my signature on that purchase order.
I believe one of them is his contractual mowing, and one of them is when he mows in the interior of the campground, which he does once a month.
Still,
I'm not sure, I'll have to pull out that invoice, I actually don't know, he doesn't charge that much for mowing in the campground. I don't know, I have to pull that invoice out to answer that question.
has that invoice been paid? Obviously.
Yep.
So we're beginning not to follow our financial policy too.
Well, it's written on the same check, but it looks like it's two different, I don't know the answer without pulling out the invoice, without pulling out the check. We have very little space to write descriptions, and so those are the same descriptions, but you can see it has an and. So there was some more to the description, but it does not print out on this report. It may have been some of the work he did for us at the park. Neither amount is over the purchase order. His contractual mowing, that's his contractual mowing, and if he did something else for $800 or $700, that would not be in violation of the purchase order policy.
Who's Robert Daniels?
Park ranger?
second, further discussion? Roll call on that.
Bennett is absent. Ross, yes. Hubble,
Yes.
Lawson,
Yes.
Pop.
No. Nothing for Miami Beach Sewer. So that brings us to medically licensing our fire department vehicles. This item begins on electronic page 63. For some time, it's been thought that we would be in competition with our MMR agreement, but I don't think so. Chief, what are your thoughts about medically licensing some vehicles?
Well, I think it's a good idea, especially in light of that recent incident we had where there were no ambulances available and dispatch calls us anyway, so we have a duty to respond. And I don't believe it's a conflict of interest since we don't have any transporting capabilities. I mean,
Right.
that's kind of a no-brainer. And then Metro Fire kind of works under the same program where they have non-transporting medical units that assist the private ambulance contractor.
From lift assist to just about anything.
Yep. And MMR will still be our pre-hospital primary care provider for the township. However, with the increase in call volume that they've had and the assistance that we provide them, I think it would probably be in the best interest of the township residents.
Well, I'd like to make a motion to authorize Fire Chief Brandon Flynn to execute to the highest order medically licensing the necessary Whitewater Township Fire Department vehicles. Looking for a second. Guess not. So, I guess you don't roll when the call comes in.
Well, if dispatch calls us, we have to go. It's a duty to respond.
Can I just make a couple comments?
Yeah.
You know, we've looked at this issue before, and I have talked to Elk Rapids Township about this. They do not license a vehicle. It's very expensive to do that. There are numerous licensing requirements, and we actually don't have that many ambulance calls here. I mean, I think for this last month, we had 20. So the instance that, you know, it's gonna be used is not that much, and people should not confuse the licensing of a vehicle with the licensing of personnel. Those are totally separate things. So the firemen can have their EMR or EMT licenses, and they can use those skills, but they don't need a medically licensed vehicle to do that. I just think for the cost of it, and I have to say, there was no information in the packet at all about how this would impact the budget. And we would need that information. We would have to know ahead of time exactly how this is going to affect personnel costs and supply costs and just everything that it would affect in the budget. So with none of that information, it's very difficult to even seriously consider it. And I know you can understand that.
Oh, absolutely.
And my personal opinion is, it's nothing against any of our firefighters or anything like that. They do a spectacular job. But I personally don't feel, and I don't believe there's any conflict with MMR either, because you wouldn't be a transporting agency. I don't even think that needs to be stated. But when we have an ambulance company that's going on that few of calls, I just don't think the taxpayers should have to bear the burden of licensing another vehicle, is my thinking on that. So I just wanted you to know that.
It's only a couple $100 a year.
Actually, the medical first responder license is no charge at the state level.
Okay.
Our engine was licensed as an MFR level when it was with Rule.
Yep.
In fact, all the equipment is still on there. So as far as the equipment, the licensing is nil. I have probably, there would be a slight impact on the financial part of it for training, but we have 8 of our 10 staff are licensed from MFR to EMT basic, and I'm a paramedic. But that cost would be very low as well. And Cheryl is right that the call volume would be very low. And I haven't been able to find the details on this last incident, why they didn't call 55 Alpha 1.
Right.
And I'm not sure how that works, if they're called automatically second due, or if they fall under the new proximity dispatching is why they call them.
Right.
An Alpha unit from, actually they came from downtown Traverse City, which took quite a while. So I'm not sure of the details on that, and that has to go through our dispatch, how they are doing things, so. But, yes, you are correct, there will be a small financial burden on the fire department. But everything is basically already in place, except for the registration with the state.
So what we'll do then is we'll work on a budget and see how it impacts. We'll answer the board's question.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then we can bring this back. Because I think that if we're going to be out there responding, we need to have licensed vehicles to do that. I'm ashamed that the rest of the board doesn't feel that way. Set a public hearing date for the repeal of general ordinance number 32. Everybody read Lindsay's comments? Do you still want to move forward with it? The repeal of general ordinance 32? the
Well,
private
you
road
stated
ordinance?
emphatically on May 29th that it had been repealed, so.
The vote was to repeal it? That was the vote? Back
Yeah.
in 17?
So then apparently we didn't need an ordinance according to you.
I didn't say that.
Oh.
We've been waiting for you to generate it. And waiting.
We'll have the attorney generate it.
Okay.
The attorneys generate ordinances.
Wonderful.
But I think the status of this is very much in question. You stated emphatically on May 29th that it had been repealed, and you would would not entertain the proposed motion granting the developer a variance from that ordinance, which you said had been repealed. So now that you're bringing this to repeal it, it looks like quid pro quo for the planning commission chair happened on May 29th, because now fast forward to today, 13 days later, and you say it has to be repealed. So I think this record has been sufficiently muddied, that we're gonna have to have the attorney's assistance to figure this out. Also, I went back and looked at the attorney's opinion from, I believe it was May 5th of 2017, wherein he issued multiple, or brought up multiple issues that have to be considered. But as I say, first of all, you claim it already has been repealed, so I was surprised to see this on the agenda. And so I think we should find out from the attorney the exact status of it before we muddy up the record anymore.
That's fine. So what was the attorney opinion date that you read?
I think it was May 5th, 2017. We all got it.
Please provide that to us.
Well, you all have it. You all got it.
Well, please provide it again for current
You
reference.
can look in your email. You already have it in your email.
But are you sure it's May 5th, 2017?
I think if you just probably
Don't think.
search,
Just tell us what the date was. That's all we're asking.
well, I'm suggesting that you can search your email and find it, because you just search email from Fahey's office.
So FOIA it is.
Patterson. Search your emails from Chris Patterson, and you're going to have it because you got it in your email. So you already have it. And in fact, we declassified it. It was in a board packet. I didn't look to see which board packet it was in. But we took the step of, quote, declassifying it.
So board, what would you like to do with this topic?
As far as?
Well, in 17, you thought it was 12, at 17, you thought it was a good idea to get rid of the general ordinance. And we voted to do that. And all we're waiting for is the generation of the repeal language.
Send it to the attorney, let them figure it out.
And I'm saying that if that's still the
But they
board's
also need a
wishes,
baseline on what they're gonna do.
if that's the board's wishes, then I say we send it off to the attorney, have him generate the repeal language, and bring it back to us. Lloyd? Okay.
Well, I will contact the attorney myself and ask him to opine on whether it already has been repealed, and provide the board's actions, and ask him if it's already been repealed by this motion that you claim repealed it.
We all know that you can't repeal by a motion.
And I tried to tell you that on May 29th, but you were emphatic. Read the minutes. You were emphatic that the ordinance had already been repealed.
That the board had voted to repeal the ordinance.
You should read, pretty much verbatim in there what you said.
Sure. And I also have a recording of it, so
Well, that's great.
it is. It's marvelous, actually. Keeps everyone honest. So I will ask then Chris Patterson to generate the repeal language. Too bad we waited a year for that. Unfinished business number 4, possible sale of Benton Road parcel. Mike Conlon, and I see Judy Tank here tonight. So I don't know if the rest of the board is aware or not, but I had asked Cheryl, and Cheryl supplied, I think as of Monday morning, a quick claim deed from Warren and, what was your mom's name?
Madge.
Madge. Cheryl provided a quick claim deed for the parcel of land that we're considering to sell. Along with that came some recollection, we'll say, that the property was deeded to the township for school use in 1983. It was meant to be a biological research area because of its, I'm going to say, very topographical lay of the land.
It is very, it's wetlands.
Judith is here tonight, I think, to speak to that covenant, and so if you'd like to make your way to the podium and tell us what you think your mom and dad wanted done with that property.
Thank you.
If you could state your name and address for the record.
How about, can I do the distribution first so we
Sure.
get it? Cheryl, this is the file for the minutes. This is the one that can go with the deed.
Oh,
And
perfect, thank you.
I did two separate ones, Ron. These are the copies for the board members,
Okay.
including one for our dog. And if, with your permission, I would like to offer to those sitting out here, I have 2 extra copies with me. I'm sorry I didn't print more for you, but are you Mike?
Yes.
Mike, I'm Judith. It's good to meet you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Anyone else take a peruse while you're at it? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for offering my family the opportunity to address the board in this matter, and it's good to meet Mike because he's somewhat involved in this whole event of what has the potential to transpire. So what I have provided for the board this evening is a copy of my memo, my written memo. Attached to that are also copies of the actual deed, the quitclaim deed, and then a note that was provided to Cheryl on January 9 of 2018. Judith Danford, 1139 Northwest Silver Lake Road, Traverse City, Michigan, 49685. I'm a co-owner of Gwen Alden Farms in Whitewater Township, and I am a surviving heir and daughter of Ormond and Madge Danford. This is in reference to number 5, an unfinished business, as stated in the agenda, this evening's agenda. And these are the following comments. My comments this evening, having read the minutes of the Whitewater Township Board meeting for 5/14, and having had conversations with the clerk and the supervisor, plus having ferreted through remembrances of my family's conversations regarding said parcel, are made with the intent to provide background on the donation/gifting/transfer of this parcel in 1983 to Whitewater Township, and to raise questioning thoughts regarding the responsibility of this board in making certain that due diligence has been performed by the township prior to any action being taken on this matter. Also, with all due respect, I strongly suggest for the board to take under advisement and to develop and to pass a policy governing the sale of township-owned and/or acquired parcels with or without like circumstances prior to taking an action specifically concerning this parcel or any other parcel or parcels in the township. During these comments, it may be helpful to keep in mind the following. The parcel was gifted/transferred to and accepted by the township in 1983. Questions. With your thoughts, are you asking, why would the township have accepted this parcel? It's a parcel which is mainly, for all intent and purposes, unfit for building or other human use or habitation, so why would the township accept it? There had to be a reason, as the township is not normally in the business of simply taking unwanted or undesirable land. So what's up? Ormond and Madge Danford were not in the business of giving something without a purpose and/or expectation of use behind it. In acceptance of said parcel by the township, they agreed to be responsible for it. So are you asking, what was the township expected to do with this parcel? How was it to be managed, maintained, used? Are there covenants, restrictions, regulations, etc. of record attached to the deed? Has a title search been done? Should one be done before the discussion and/or matter is continued? Who knows what might be uncovered in that? Has the board researched the minutes in the August, September, November year of 1983 to discover what might be there concerning the transfer of this land from the Danfords to the township? Hopefully, you are wondering more about this matter even more and raising more questions. Has the board done due diligence in order to satisfy the questions and the situation that will arise in your desire for taking a look at selling this parcel of land? This is a matter that goes to intent. Over the years, my parents repeatedly conveyed to me the intent of the use of this parcel. As my dad was an attorney and a forester, and as both my parents valued the land and nature and education, providing a wetland area for children to explore and understand and expand their understanding and love of creation was a no-brainer. What better opportunity could they have than experiencing nature in its natural habitat? And in 1983, what better way to aid in the development of a relationship between a township and a school district whose schools were outside of this township, yet whose children attended schools in Elk Rapids? What vision for this parcel? And as an aside, if you are questioning the intent as presented, please remember, or if you do not know, you can happily be informed, in 1980, Ormond and Madge Danford were selected as National Tree Farmers of the Year. It was achieved through hard work, commitment, and a love of the forest and creation. Of course, they would want this love of creation nurtured within the young, thus the gifting of the parcel. And for those of you who really don't know, the tree farm is still in operation out on the Broomhead. And now, how could they have known that an elementary school would be just down the road from this parcel? How could they have known that there would be an employee in the school district to oversee this kind of activity? What a blessing this parcel could have been, and yet it still can be, if the intent had been implemented. The hope is for it to be implemented now. My hope is this board will carve out the time to investigate and explore the possibilities with the Elk Rapids District for developing a governing agreement for use and maintenance of this parcel. As the district is forging ahead with the sale of properties they currently own, what better time for this township to be able to offer a unique educational setting for the students while upholding the intent of the gift. A field trip from Mill Creek to this parcel is most realistic. Think about the possibilities, please. The following in regard to the sale of the land, please note, this is stated with all due respect to individuals and/or parties who have expressed an interest in the parcel. No offense is intended, nor should any be taken by what is written next. As was and remains the intent in the transfer of the land, was that it was to be used for educational purposes. The sale of the property to a private citizen for personal use and gain, and a sale which would provide a financial gain, however that be, to the township at the expense of children's education would not be acceptable to my parents, as it would defile, and negate their values and their purposes and the intent. If agreement cannot be reached between the township and the district, or if the township elects not to pursue a working relationship with the district, then the matter should be revisited at that time, and obviously after the board has done due diligence. Perhaps, if the intent of the grantors cannot be met, since there are living survivors of the grantors, would it be prudent to offer the return of the land to the family? The family could then decide to accept or deny the offer. In the event the offer was rejected, then it might possibly release the township from obligation and provide a way for the sale to happen. Obviously, this can only be considered after completion of the title search and the research of covenants, restrictions, regulations, etc. In presenting all of this, and there's much more that needs to go with it, I strongly encourage, as addressed in the first page of this document, for this board to develop and adopt a governing policy. The precedent being established at this time has long-term ramifications. It's imperative to protect the township and the residents from liabilities associated with these and any issues. Failure to have and to follow an established policy threatens the trust in the establishment and is detrimental to every resident in the township. And I thank you so much for your time, your energy, your interest in pursuing this. Before going any further, I ask you strongly and sincerely to develop and adopt a policy for this issue and land issues to come. Thank you for your time. And if you have any questions, comments, I would be more than happy to answer them for you if I possibly can.
Mike, comments? By the way, did the two of you meet
We just did,
pre-meetings?
yes, thank you.
Mike, comment?
Mike Conlon, thanks for letting me address the board again. Ms. Danforth, you're very well spoken.
Thank you.
I think you should run for township government.
Yes, thank you. Actually, I did serve on the board here in Whitewater Township. I was on the Park and Recs, I think. I've done a number of things here. I have a love for the township, absolutely, so thank you.
Sure. I'm interested in the parcel. I think with her history of the parcel, I think we need to do our due diligence, and I know what the deed said back in the day, 1983. The reason I wanted to pick up the parcel is I bought the sliver parallel to M72 and would like access to that parcel.
Yes.
And then, but I think this time I'm on hold until we do some homework. Thanks.
So, cut to the chase. We can do a lot of due diligence here, has been pointed out, or we just say the property's not for sale. And, you know, to be honest with you, you might have dealt with Warren once or twice. I know my children had at least once. choice as far as their wishes about education. Where do we want to go with this? You know, we're looking at maybe a sale price of between 10 and 15,000 bucks. I say we let the school know that they have use of that land, that's what it's there for. I think there'll be total excitement at the Mill Creek School. I bet you they don't even know. Just like we did.
Yeah, I think we should approach the school and let them know that it's there for them, and if they have any desire, what they're, are they actually gonna want to use it? And just find out if that's something that we're, a little bit of due diligence just to find out.
Okay. All right. So, inform the school of its potential use. What other
response
types?
from them and see what they think.
So,
Because even if we do keep it, and it does become something like that, are we gonna have to treat it like a park now? Are we gonna, is there some basic stuff we're gonna have to cover, maybe a trail going down, maybe some handrails, or, I mean, what's our responsibility if we keep it and the school wants to use it? Because it is a government piece of property. So, there's both sides that we have to look at. So I think talking to the school is the first thing we need to do, just to establish which direction we want to go.
Well, and at the back of Mill Creek, there's a pond that
They already use
use, and they don't have any transportation or any
Liability.
not liability, worry about the kids with the roads. But I'm right there with you, I think we ought to at least put it before them and see what they say.
so the other thing I heard tonight was, the term escapes me, I apologize. Investigation of the title, so a title search, there it is. Do we want to pay for a title search? $300 to $500 probably.
Right now?
What would be the purpose of a title search? We know it's in the township's hands and it was gifted from the Danfords.
Well, what I picked up is that
covenants and restrictions.
covenants and restrictions, what I picked up on, yep, and that comes from page 3 in the second paragraph. You know, right now, this is a verbal account, but again, I believe it's probably pretty accurate. So maybe that's not gonna be an issue for us. Maybe we don't need to make sure it was attached to the original quitclaim deed. I did, I had the county help me with a search. They could not come up with this document. In part, though, I know why now, because the legal description of this quitclaim deed is much different than what's listed on the tax ID number. Yep. It has a completely different starting point, the whole bit. Dawn indicates, Assessor Dawn indicates that during this time period, the county used a third-party service that charged by the keystroke. And so Equalization Department went through and shortened, condensed legal descriptions. Yep. And so I think what the county has on file right now is probably 3 sentences. Yeah, probably 3 sentences, whereas this is a real description. Okay, so I have contacted the school to see if they're interested in it. You say there's a pond behind the school, I think it's behind the playground.
Yeah, they feel comfortable with it.
In Dixie Coast.
Right, right. And then, so we'll let the use then determine?
Kind of find out first where we're at with the school and what they want to do.
Okay, all right. And then the other option I heard is maybe sell it back to the family, or give it back to the family.
Give it back and then they can decide what to do with it.
Yeah, I think that too is a great idea. Maybe that's the way we want to go.
You might not want it back.
You offered
You
though.
might get it today.
You offered.
Yeah, I think that's a great resolution though, because I think it removes the township from that obligation. And as a result of that, I think that, that allows for the working of whatever else. And also, hopefully, if that were to transpire and Mike were to be the purchaser, that his understanding of that would also generate a use for the land that would somewhat honor what Mom and Dad had intended to begin with. So, however that might be. But I was thinking of getting the township out of an obligation that they wouldn't want to be beholden to. If
Can
that
I
was to
take one
transpire.
other comment before we close this out?
Sure.
If the Mill Creek is not interested because of logistics or whatever, to check into the family's wishes, maybe we could check with Grand Traverse Land Conservancy and see if they have a use for that wetland.
Okay. All right, so I'll contact Jessica.
Yes.
Zenica or something like that.
Zena.
Zena?
Zosina.
Zazina?
Yes.
Can you spell that backwards?
They get their mail all the time.
So I'll attempt to keep you in the informational loop, both Mike and Judy, of what the school says. I wonder how many other pieces of property we have like that.
It might be something I could put some of the pieces of property that aren't being used, maybe look into a little bit, just to find out. If there's stuff that needs to be used or has a purpose, then we need to make sure the purpose is met.
Or at least even that the school knows about it.
Correct.
All right. So Mike, we're on hold for a little while.
Great, thank you, appreciate your time.
That brings us to new business number 1, fire department proposed DNR lease for dry hydrant. Chief, what's your pleasure here?
Well, I haven't had a chance to speak with our representative from the DNR, just to fill the board in on how this all transpired. A letter was sent from Grand Traverse Metro Fire Department to the clerk's office, and it was addressed to Fire Chief, Grand Traverse Fire Department. So that tells you how old their records are at the DNR.
Grand Traverse Fire Department?
Grand Traverse Fire Department.
So that's before rural and metro, so that's at least 35 years ago.
So they,
Why update the lease
Did you
now?
update them?
that's how this all transpired. I sent Mrs. Lori Ruff, who is with the DNR, updated information explaining, Grand Traverse Fire Department no longer exists, and nor does rural. And actually, the dry hydrant you speak of is in Whitewater Township and we're on it, and so on and so forth. So she sent me this rather large lease agreement, which is, there's no fees associated with it. Basically just a legal document that says we have a dry hydrant located on, I believe, DNR property at the, or maybe state property on, at the DNR, or I'm sorry, the Lake Skagamog boat access site. So it's pretty in-depth, and I think Cheryl has it in the entire document in the packet. So there's a lot of language in there that makes me nervous, particularly like, we're responsible for the upkeep and maintenance and repair, and that, we haven't used that because it is damaged. that supply pipe that goes out into the lake that feeds the dry hydrant is very shallow, and boats keep hitting it because it's right next to the boat ramp. It is broken about probably 100 feet out. So we haven't used it for that reason, just because our pump will suck up the sand and the rocks and debris and will damage our pump, and we can't afford to have that happen. And that is an area right there that we use, another device we have for drawing water out of the lake versus using the dry hydrant. So I need to get more information on this before we sign this and make it official. And strangely enough, it's towards the end of the lease agreement, which it expires in August of next year. So maybe we can put it off for a little bit longer, and I'll talk with the DNR and find out what our obligation is to keep it maintained and operational.
Well, if we're not on the original lease, are we liable to have to repair it right now? Is that something they can, if we decide to sign a new lease, can they have it up to snuff? Can they do the repairs to it before we sign the lease?
Yep, that's some of the information that I have written down that I need to clarify with the DNR.
What I recall from the rural days
Yeah.
is that it was rural's pipe. So rural.
They're not on the lease. Okay.
Yeah, because I asked why we didn't repair it, okay? And apparently these days you need quite a permit to excavate on the lake bed. Yep. And that's what was deemed necessary to bury the pipe.
Keep it up.
Yep, not just lay it on top of the soil like it was done, or bottom of the lake. Actually bury it down out about 200 feet so we can get below the skags and the props and whatnot.
Do we even need it with today's technology, where we draw water out of the lake?
And I think that's what Chief was saying with the turbo draft.
Yeah.
We have 2 turbo drafts. Sadly, you need a pumper truck to use a turbo draft, and that would be our only drawback. If we have a structure fire, our pumper is going to sit in front of the structure fire. So we'll have to call in mutual aid to man the turbo draft to fill our tankers that are doing a tanker show.
Mm-hmm.
But with our new bumper tanker.
With our new pumper tanker, we can do that.
Well, we got some time to sort this out, it sounds like.
Mm-hmm.
Evaluate if we really do need it or not.
Yep. I suspect they sent it out right away, so they're waiting for a signed contract to come back, so I'll get a hold of her as soon as I can. Get some of these answers, our questions answered.
So I'm just gonna say, you and I will talk before the July 9th information deadline submittal, so on and so forth, and if it fits on July's schedule, I mean, your schedule, great, if not, we'll just move it out to August. Is that kind of what you're thinking, Paul?
Mm-hmm.
Perfect.
All right, new business number 2. On the second paragraph of this resolution, whereas the Whitewater Township Cemetery ordinance prescribes that the township board by resolution may periodically set and adjust fee for burial spaces to accommodate increased costs, needed reserve funds for cemetery maintenance and acquisition. Can you supply your map for those items, Cheryl? Because it looks like you just kind of passed through the cost from the new Sexton agreement. It does not look like we've made an attempt for any reserve funds for cemetery maintenance as this resolution would request.
Well, I'm just simply setting out what the cemetery ordinance language is there. I'm not saying that we're setting aside any funds for cemetery maintenance or acquisition. I'm just telling you what the cemetery ordinance says.
This is a resolution, not an ordinance.
But the cemetery, the resolution is based on the ordinance, what the
Okay.
ordinance says. That's what it says in the cemetery ordinance.
So that would be kind of like a requirement for you to do, is to estimate the needed reserve funds and cemetery maintenance costs and roll that into the rates for cemetery services, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's how I read that second paragraph.
I'm simply pointing out what some other board put into the cemetery ordinance. This resolution only has to do with the rates for burials. It doesn't have anything to do with anything else. It's just the burial rates that Bob Wilkinson charges.
So then we should strike that second paragraph, that second whereas paragraph. I mean, if we're not gonna
Because
follow.
they periodically set and adjust it. I'm just reciting word for word what the cemetery ordinance says.
I get that.
Okay, so I just put the entire sentence that I didn't want to leave out. I didn't want to put a partial sentence. I put the entire sentence, but this, in the now therefore be it resolved paragraph, it's clearly that we're only talking about the cost of a burial space, which is the same as was set last year. And then the increased costs of interment of cremains and full bodies as are charged by Robert Wilkinson.
Yep. But it doesn't take into account the need for the reserve funds or the cemetery maintenance.
It's not meant to.
But the ordinance prescribes it.
Well, we can deal with that some other day. Right now, for all of the time that this township has had those two cemeteries, I haven't come across a reserve fund, so no one has ever set one up. And
That sounds like
cemetery,
Miami Beach.
so this sort of.
Is that really appropriate? Come on,
It
stop it,
is.
really.
It is.
Your comments are really unwelcomed. Always against Miami Beach.
No, not always against
They
Miami
are.
Beach.
They are. It's getting unreasonable.
Hey.
And yours are too.
Well, that's my comment on the resolution. Board?
I'd like to make a motion to adopt resolution 19-11.
Okay. Paul, second. Motion made and seconded. Further discussion? Roll call when ready.
Goss, yes, Hubble?
Yes.
Lawson?
Yes.
Pop?
No.
Ethic is absent.
New business number 3. I guess the only thing I would change here on the motion is motion to authorize the supervisor to sign the engagement letter as addressed. That's my motion. Is there a second? Okay. You can clearly see that it's addressed to the supervisor and township board.
I'll make a motion to authorize the clerk to sign the engagement letter for the 3/31/2019 fiscal year end audit.
Motion made and seconded, further discussion? Roll call, Lynn.
Hubble,
Yes.
Lawson,
Yes.
Todd.
No?
Emmett is absent, Goss, yes.
Set a public hearing date for the zoning ordinance amendments number 73 and 74. Want to do it at our July meeting?
The board is not required to have another public hearing on these zoning ordinance amendments. They went to public hearing on March 6th, I believe.
March 6th.
No one spoke against or in favor of, and I don't see any point, for quite frankly, in wasting taxpayer money on another public hearing when no one apparently was opposed.
Well, we did say that we would hold public hearings for any of these changes.
On non-zoning ordinances. A public hearing has already been held at the planning commission.
So you're saying that was just a general ordinance item
Yeah.
that we were gonna hold?
Yes.
Because they're already required on zoning ordinances. The board has the option, according to the Zoning Enabling Act, the board has the option to set a public hearing, have another public hearing if they want, but when no one showed up to the first one, I just think it'd be a waste of